guys, well the frame for the CX650E have come back all sandblasted nicely, and now the next stage is to think about getting some wheels on this frame. And I did use spoke wheels on my CX650 calf racer, which came from Cognito, and to be honest, they cost me nearly half the value of the bike. You know, they're really nice, I love them, but they were very expensive. And on this bike, it does come with twin disc front end and a disc rear end. They're not overly fond of the wheels of the 650E Euro, but yeah, primarily around cost. You know, I do want to reduce the cost a bit on this bike. I'm going to look at having a go at fitting those wheels. So I have to do up the ProLink system. I've got the rear shocking for the ProLink. I've got these links back. I've just been going through making all new hard bushes for the ProLink system. So yeah, it's time to get the wheels on and work out what we're going to do with this ProLink system. Well, I think I did speak about this the last time. We're going to cut this one off here. I'm going to get a U-bracket made up once I sort of get the dimensions when the wheels and the shocky are in the frame, and then get that professionally welded. Of course, the next thing we're going to do is get some forks and a front wheel on it. Now, I picked up this a while back actually, this Kawasaki ZX6R front end. It's a 2002 ZX6R front end. Use that on the CX650 calf racer, and yeah, it worked really well. Do like the traditional look of these forks. They're not upside down forks, but yeah, again, looking at wheels, we're going to see how the wheels go. But I'll probably, if I'm going with a 650 Euro rear wheel, I'm going to try and fit the Euro front wheel to these set of forks and keep these discs. So yeah, we'll be looking into that, making up a new headstand. We'll show you how to do that. So yeah, that's what's coming up, guys. Okay, I've got stripped down the forks, and we've got the two headstems here. This is the Kawasaki ZX6R 2005 model, and the Honda CX650 Euro model here. The main differences, so we've got to fit this headstem into that frame, and so we've basically got to keep these length measurements, but on the bearings we have to fit the bearings into the headstem housing on the frame. And on the Honda, the lower bearing is a 50 millimeter by 30, 50 mm OD by 30 mm ID, and on the Kawasaki it's 55 by 35. So I have to modify this shaft to suit that. Same with the top bearing. The top bearing on the CX650E is 48.5 by 26 mm ID, and on the Kawasaki it's 47 by 25. So basically, I've done up a drawing. I'll leave the drawing in the description of this headstand. I'm going to make it out of aircraft grade aluminium, solid billet aluminium. So the next thing is to press this headstem out of the triple tree. Okay, I'm ready to press the headstem out of the triple tree. So I'm going to put a bit of heat on it first. This time it's aluminium. is the head stem bolt. So I'm now going to make one of these out of aircraft grade aluminium. Okay, I've got some aircraft grade aluminium billets bolted in the lathe, and we've got a head stem bolt off the Kawasaki. Now I have to modify some of these diameters to suit the CX bearings. Like this is 25mm, it's got to go out to 26mm. So, but these threads, that's 22mm diameter there and 25mm diameter there, and the pitch is 1mm. So I have to cut a thread on there and there. So yeah, let's get into it and start turning that down. Start turning our diameters down. Okay, I'm just going to rough the diameters out for first. I'm not going to take them down to their full depth. Okay, all the diameters have been done to the new shaft. Primarily this diameter here, which is for the lower bearings, gone from 35 down to 30, and this diameter here for the top bearing has gone to 20, from 25 up to 26. So all I'll do is cut the threads on here now, and it should be done. So we're just about to go and cut the threads on this shaft. They're both 1mm pitch. This is a 22mm diameter, that's a 25mm diameter. Now I don't trust the half nuts on this lathe. This is just a cheap Japanese lathe, so I always keep the thread cutting engaged and then just reverse it, because you don't want to stuff up a fine thread like this at the very last minute. So here we go. Stop it and a rewind. Come back in. Check how we're going with our gauge. Still got a bit to go yet. Getting down here now. Okay, I'm just going to do a little tidy up of these threads. Okay, let's give this one a try. See how we go. Nice. Happy with that. Okay, that's it done. Goes on there. That is a little bit tighter, that one. Yeah, just that one's nice, but that one's a little bit tight. Yeah, that one's just a little bit tighter. I might have to take another little cut out of it. Okay, I've just taken a little final cut, mainly in the depth. I just resharpened the tool a little bit better and give it another thing. That one goes on fairly smoothly. This one was just that little bit tighter, you know. But she's going all right now. I just took a little bit out of the bottom. And we've got this nut on here. And that is ready to go, guys. Okay, the last thing we've got to do is part this off. Let's cut it off. And just give that a little file on the edge. Okay, it's just about to be parted off here. Just got a hold of it. And there she goes. So there's the Kawasaki part, and there's the new part that we're going to press into the Kawasaki triple. So let's do it. Okay, I've had this triple clamp all polished up, and it's just been in the barbecue to warm up. I've got some grease on the shaft. In here, get nice and square. And press that in. Press that nice and square. Okay, that's it. And there's our new head stem now into the triple clamp. So that's ready to go on the bike. Okay, that's the bearing done up. I'm using the CX seal cover, and also the Kawasaki seal cover comes up as well with the nut inside it, which goes on quite nice. The cover's got that bearing up nicely. Yeah, tighten that up. That's nice. Our lock nut goes on next. Tighten that up. That's it. And that is beautiful. Next we put our top triple clamp on. The washer. And finally the nut. And now we're ready for the fork tubes to go in. Okay, next to go on is the fork legs. Yeah, so this is the right one. So we'll just put them there for now. We should hold it. Get the other one, get the left one on. Let's level them all up later on. Well guys, the Kawasaki ZX6 forks are on the CX frame. I love these forks. They're 46mm diameter. They're really sturdy forks. The next problem I've got is the wheels. Now the Kawasaki ZX6R wheel has the 6-piston Takiko calipers, which I want to keep, but it's a 17-inch wheel, and to me it's an ugly wheel as well. So yeah, having an 18-inch CX back wheel and a 17-inch front wheel ain't going to work. So with me being on a budget, I'm decided to use the Honda CX650E Euro wheels, which are like these. But the problem is fitting the discs onto this bike and the axle. Now the axle on a CX is like that, it's 15mm. The axle on a ZX6R is like that, it's huge. This one's 15mm, this one's 25mm. So that 25mm axle isn't going to go into this hub. So I've thought about it quite a lot, and what I'm going to do is I've removed the rivets and the bolts from the spokes. I'm taking these 2 spokes out only, and I'm going to remove this hub like so, and basically doist that and make up a new hub. Make up a new hub out of this. This is aircraft grade aluminium, very strong grade of aluminium. So I'm going to make up a hub that will take the Kawasaki ZX6R axle and rotors, and should basically be the same as that. Well, it's a blend of both. Okay, we've done one side of the hub, the outside diameters. The bores aren't done yet. I'm going to turn this around, do the other side, and then once I get a better grip, I'll do the bores. I've just about got the hub machined up here. I'm just doing the last bearing surface on what will be the left-hand side, which is a kind of a floating bearing. It's set by the spacer. So I'm just machining this bore out now. So just about to get it going with a few more cuts left. Well, that's the hub pretty well machined up, the lathe work. There's the old hub sitting on the tailstock, and the new one's here, all ready to go. I've marked out the PCDs for the holes, so she's all ready to come out of the chuck. Okay, I'm just drilling the holes for the spokes to bolt onto. They were originally 7. I'm taking them out to 8, which, in saying they were 7, the holes were actually probably around about 7.5. The bolts were actually a bit sloppy, so I'm putting a pilot drill through first, and then 8mm and getting a lot better fit with an 8mm bolt, high tensile bolt. So yeah, time to start drilling. Swap that over for an 8mm drill. Okay, let's run the 8mm drill through. So there we have it. That's the holes drilled for the spokes. The next thing I'm going to do is just drill and tap these to 8mm for the rotor bolts. So both sides, they have to be drilled and tapped. Tapping off the last hole for the rotors, and that is basically the hub all machined up, ready to go. So yeah, what I'm going to do next, so there's the hub there, all the holes are drilled out and tapped. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bearings and seals in this hub, clean up the rim, bolt this into the rim, then rivet the four rivets into the spokes, and then get it painted. It's going to be painted black. So yeah, next step, get the bearings into this hub. Okay, it's time to get the bearing in. I've just got the old bearing set up in the press, ready to press the new one in. We'll start pressing that in. Very nice. So look at that. That looks good. And this is the bearing that goes on the right hand side, so it does have a circlip to hold the bearing and basically the whole axle in place. So we'll pop that in, and that goes in nicely. Okay, seal in, bearing on the other side. Okay, it's time to put the other bearing in. We've got the spacers we've got to go in. So I'll just line that up with the axle. So that's pretty well in line as I put it in. Okay, I've just got the axle in there lining up the spacer. Top bearing's ready to go in. Just press that in. There's the axle running through there. well, that's the two bearings into the hub. Next thing is to get the seals in. Well, that's both seals in, so that's basically the hub finished. We've got our two spacers that go on into the seals. They go on there. Our axle goes through there, and our nut goes on the other side. That is now ready to go into the wheel and the forks. Well, that's the hub all machined up and sitting in the forks with the Kawasaki axle inserted in it. It's all ready to go. So the next step is to get it into the center of that hub and then re-rivet the final 4 rivets. So okay, ready to put the last 2 spokes in. These are all bolted up nice and firmly. I'll just put okay, that's the hub in the wheel now, connected to the spokes. I've got 2 7mm drills here lining up the 7.02 holes for the rivets, which is the next thing to do. Okay, I've just made a flathead rivet out of 6060 T5 aluminium. And the length is 1.5 times the thickness of the material. Okay, now just finishing off the wheel actually. The rivets I've made, which are 7.02 diameter, have been fitted into the spokes. And now I've got my bolts in, my 8mm bolts, a nice, really nice firm fit. And I'm just going to tension these up now to 25 Newton meters. Now what I'm going to do, once these are tensioned up, you can see the bolts are actually sticking out a little bit longer. I'm just going to cut them off flush, and I'm just going to TIG weld them. Those bolts won't be coming off then. 25 Newton meters of torque and TIG welded, they won't come off. Okay, they are well and truly tight. So, the next problem you had with this installation is securing the spokes. So I've used the aluminium rivets, and to get them where you can rivet them over, it was a little bit dodgy with the rivet gun. So what I've done is kind of made up a jig to hold these wheels firmly as I rivet them. And I've done one rivet, and I don't know whether you can see this or not, bring it up to you, but Okay, we're looking at the two spokes rivets here. I've just riveted this one over, and here I've got the other 7mm rivet, solid rivet in there, and in the spoke itself it's actually very slightly counterbored out to 10mm, so that the rivet flares into that 10mm counterbore hole. So next thing I'll show you is how we actually rivet them. Okay, so what I've made up is I've got a nice heavy piece of channel which I had laying around here, and I've made up 25mm axle. It suits the Kawasaki. Here's one of the Kawasaki spacers. That goes on like that, and here I've got an anvil on the sort of inside diameter of where, or the diameter of where the rivets are, and I then put the wheel on. Wheel goes on like this, and I've got this spacer goes on the top. It kind of slots it down a little bit. And then I can bring the rivet round to this anvil area, and what I do is I've got a 5mm piece of solid steel. Because the spokes are actually sort of angled a bit, I just slide this in under the head of the rivet, and then I can rivet it up. So I'll just show you that area. So okay, you can see this anvil here actually runs in the circumference of these dowels. So I'll line that up, and what I do is I just loosen this off a bit and raise it so I can get this solid piece of steel underneath that rivet without touching any part of the spokes. And then just tighten this back down again. Now that doesn't really move, and that pin, only that pin is solid on that anvil. Okay, so I'm just using a dolly to mushroom over these rivet heads, and that'll be forming down into that 10mm cutout, you know, counterbore. You can see it getting formed there. I'll go a little bit more. That's him. Okay. Well, that's all four rivets done now. Bolts are tensioned up, and the other two sets of spokes are back in riveted. So that's all I've got to do now really is just cut those bolts off and tack weld. Just TIG weld the edges on that, and that rim's ready to be painted and get a tyre on it. Well, I'm just checking the run out on this rim, and you know, like, it's a 40-year-old rim, and it's had a few dings and bangs. But yeah, it's not too bad, you know, it's probably 2mm. I think I'll get away with that alright. So yeah, next thing is to get this painted and get a tyre on it. Okay, I now have the front suspension fitted to the project. We have the Kawasaki ZX6R forks, the axle and the rotors fitted with the CX650 wheel. Of course, this is all going to be overhauled. You know, I've got new bearings in there. The wheels got to be painted. I've got to get a tyre on here. We'll go through the forks, put seals and new oil in the forks, and paint this. Paint it or polish it, not quite sure yet. But the next thing is to get into the rear suspension. So that'll be the next thing that we're getting into, guys.